Kia ora. My name is Jan. And here's my clicker. My name is Jan, I'm with Hapara. We're the New Zealand contingent here, representing the Southern Hemisphere. In the back of the room there's Tony. Tony, can you wave? All right. So we make Google Apps work for teachers. Quick show of hands, how many of you are either using Google Apps or looking at using Google Apps in your classrooms? All right, wow. Wonderful. Well, we'd love to talk to you. Google Apps is growing very, very quickly. There are over 1 million new students coming into Google Apps for Education every month. And here's the thing, the first experience for a lot of those kids, and actually for teachers as well, is this. This is a blank Google Docs page. So when you start, for getting kids to do something creative in Google Docs is not that hard. I mean, these are kids who grew up on Facebook now. The challenge of them is getting them to do something that makes your life easier. And the first step there, oftentimes, is just getting them to share a document they've created with you, not with the other Miss Jones 2 doors down the hall. And here's the thing, once they've figured out how to do that sharing, that's when life gets ugly. So I can see a few winces. You've seen this screen before, right? This is what happens when 30 kids shared their documents with you. And if you have the misfortune of being a high school teacher and you have 180 kids, yeah, it's worse. And we've seen teachers do some really ingenious things to get around this. And the common thread in those solutions is time, right? It just takes a weekend or two. Or if you're the high school teacher, maybe a bit of Christmas. So with Teacher Dashboard, we do 3 things. First of all, we structure Google Apps to work the way it should for you, the teacher. Secondly, we give you a dashboard view so you can make sense of what's going on in your classroom across all of Google Apps. And lastly, we add a layer of transparency. So here's a dashboard. Here's what you might see as an English teacher. Each of these panels is a student. We've created, through Teacher Dashboard, an English folder for each of these students. So when they go into Google Docs, there's an English folder. And what you're seeing inside these individual panels is the contents, the last 3 recently modified documents in their English folder. You can see how long ago the document was modified. You can see who last modified it. So if I'm Mr. George and I've put some comments into your document, I can see that you haven't touched it since I've done it last week. If I hover my mouse over the title, I can see a little thumbnail of the document, so I don't have to open 50 documents every hour. If your school is able to provide us some additional information, like grades, like attendance, other information, we can make it visible to you right in Teacher Dashboard. So as a teacher, you don't have to go hunting for it. From a student's perspective, again, as a student, if I go into my Google Docs, what I'm going to see is a set of folders that have been pre-created for me. That English folder is going to be shared with my English teacher, the economics folder with the economics teacher. And that happens automatically. As a student, I don't have to do anything. As a teacher, if I take over a different class in the middle of the year, Teacher Dashboard will automatically realign all the permissions so things just work. As a student, if I go into my Google Calendar, I'm going to see calendars for my individual classes already in place and already selected, already subscribed, which means that as a teacher, if I put an event on my class calendar, I know that every one of my kids can see it without me having to do anything different. How many of you are looking at portfolios? Yeah, okay, fair few. So we see a lot of schools using Google Sites for reflective portfolios, and we support Google Sites. We support Blogger. So the same sort of a dashboard view I described for Docs works for Blogger. We do the same thing for Picasa. And I mentioned transparency, all right? And transparency is important because Google Apps is popular, we believe, because much like Apple, they focus on the user experience. They make things just really work well. And that works great for me in my personal life. It works great for my company, but in an education setting, it's not so great. So with Teacher Dashboard, one of the options we give you is, if you choose to enable it, is to give you access to student email, to give you access to documents that students have unshared from you. So in a school setting, if you have a student who is actively unsharing a bunch of documents and making sure none of the teachers can see them, somebody probably ought to know. So, look, there are a lot of you here who are looking at Google Apps. We think we've done a reasonable job. We've got about 90 schools globally using these, about half of them in the US, half of them outside. We'd absolutely love to talk to you about what you're doing with Google Apps and how these tools might be useful. Everything you just saw runs on the same servers as Google Docs. It takes about an hour to get started. You can get started with 1 or 2 classrooms and grow from there as needed. So again, we'd love to talk to you. There's Tony. I will be in the back there, and thank you very much. Kia ora.